Hello everyone, I am Hunter SC, this is Sank Daily number 6. The primary focus of this episode is going to be on strategies we're going to use, especially in the first week of play. I am going to stress gold specifically in this episode. We're going to talk about the many different uses for gold in Diablo 3, some things you should keep in mind, and just the best course of action, especially early on. And I'm stressing this first week because, as I mentioned in a previous Sanctuary Daily, there is no real money auction house for the first 7 days of play. I'm really happy about that. It's going to make your decision making, though, when it comes to gold spending, a lot more significant. The way you spend your gold is really going to shape your character early on, and it's just going to dictate how efficiently you can play and how powerful your character is. So I think it's a pretty important issue to discuss here. We're going to hammer through a few different points, a few different options that you have for gold spending. Of course, you could spend it at the vendors, you could spend it crafting, whether you're crafting at the blacksmith, whether you're crafting at the jeweler. You can build up your stash size, you can spend it on the gold auction house, which will be available in that first week, as well as any repairs that need to be made. I guess I'll mention repairs initially. Those are going to be, a mandatory cost for all players, and really the only way to reduce the amount of gold that you're spending repairing your gear is by reducing the number of times you die, because that's going to be a penalty. Actually, anytime you die, you lose 10% durability on all of your gear that you're wearing, as far as I know. So that's going to be a consistent gold penalty, and it's going to be one that's going to scale way up into Inferno mode, because you're wearing the godly gear. It's going to cost more to repair, so that gold cost is always going to be there. So I mean, no one's going to want to die, but it's I guess an extra incentive to try to avoid death and play a little bit more carefully. Of course, the gold auction house is an option for you early on, but I would be very careful. I mean, especially at the early stages of this retail launch, people are not going to know how much their items are worth. People are going to be putting up auctions and starting the bidding at whatever the hell they want. In terms of accurate item valuation, it's just not going to be there. You're going to have to be wary of that. But at the same time, there are going to be other people who might be setting a buyout price that's exceptionally low. People who don't know that a certain rare is really in high demand or really valuable, and you can snake that and grab that real quick with a buyout if that's available to you. That's not going to be the majority, though. I would be very careful. I'd maybe use the gold auction house more as a reference point when trying to value your own gear, but be careful on spending all your money there. It really could come back to bite you. When it comes to your stash, this is like the number one gold sink to avoid. Early on in your play, when you've just got low level characters, there is no reason to spend a piece of gold upgrading your stash size. The shared stash is originally just 2 rows, and you can unlock more pieces 2 rows at a time. You can unlock additional pages, but it's very expensive, and because you can freely make 10 characters at the get-go, you can stock up your stash and then, using a mule character, unload that stash there, and you've got free room in your shared stash once again. And I just wouldn't put your money there. It's not worth it. When you get closer to the end game, when you're a bit more ballin' with the gold, maybe you can spend some money there. That will make sense later on, but not early on. It's a big waste of money, and money not well spent at all. I would avoid this stash. Once you're in Inferno mode and you're getting nice big gold drops consistently, then it would make more sense to invest in something that's more cosmetic or more for convenience sake. Of course, you've always got vendors as well. We really only got to use the vendors available in the beta, and I mean they were changing them quite a bit and making the gear available at vendors more and more useful. They patched it so that the gear was better. They patched in new gear that's available, like to the point that you can actually buy rings at vendors in Act 1 which, you know, we've never seen in a Diablo game before. So there will be some instances, I would stress more so early on in your playthrough, where, you know, you're going to spend gold at vendors. For the most part, you're not going to be dumping, you know, all the gold that you have there. It might be just to fill like one armor slot or something like that. That's going to be more on a case-by-case basis, though, and I'm sure that, you know, there will be cases where, you know, it makes a lot of sense to pick up an item from a vendor. It's too hard to speculate on that without actually having the game, but that will be one to consider. But really and truly, the one that I would stress the most is going to be your crafting. Of course, you've got the blacksmith and you've got the jeweler. I'm going to talk more on the blacksmith. You're going to be leveling up your blacksmith with gold, with materials, salvaging materials, of course, and then eventually, when you get your blacksmith to a higher level, you're going to need books of training, the tomes of training, and then there are like special tomes of training as well for when you're like almost maxing out your blacksmith. But that's really going to be the soundest place to invest your money in leveling up your blacksmith to the point that your level coincides with the level of gear available at the blacksmith. It's obviously a waste of money to level up your blacksmith way beyond your means. And then once you do that, you are going to be spending a lot of your gold crafting items. Using the crafting at the blacksmith is just going to be the best way to like keep your gear up to date. If, you know, you've got a sweet chest armor and sweet helm and a lousy belt or gloves, you know, maybe fill in the belt, fill in the gloves. Use the blacksmith to craft whatever item is needs filling. Whatever your weakest item is and you want a replacement for that item, your go-to guy is going to be the blacksmith, and that's going to be the best place really to spend your gold and to slowly build up the power that your character's wielding and like how good their gear is. It really is the best choice. Focus mostly on the blacksmith. Of course, you'll be salvaging all this crafting materials as you outgrow your gear, you find magical gear that you don't want. You'll be spending your materials and a good chunk of your gold on the blacksmith. And that really is the whole point I wanted to hammer home in this video, is just to focus primarily on the blacksmith, especially in this first week. I mean, we haven't had any real experience with the jeweler, and I mean, there's certainly going to be instances where you're going to need to use the jeweler's services as well. So yeah, I would focus on crafting a little bit, maybe from the vendors here and there. Completely avoid the stash size. Don't blow all your gold on the gold auction house. And of course, try avoiding death whenever possible, because that's going to be a big gold sink as well. Just paying to get your equipment repaired if you keep dying. Things to keep in mind, especially in this first week: no real money auction house. It's all going to be about the gold. I'm going to add this too, don't worry about hoarding gold early on. It makes no sense. Players who are going to be trying to build up as much gold as they can and trying to get that gold find percentage on all of their items as high as possible, it only makes sense to do that for players once they are like in Inferno mode, essentially. Once you've reached the level cap, just because the sheer volume of gold that's going to be dropping is going to be way up, and your time is not going to be well spent in normal mode or nightmare mode trying to bank as much gold as you can and focusing on gold find gear. It really doesn't make sense early on. Save that for the late game, spend your gold efficiently, play the game efficiently, and I mean, in no time you'll be one of the top characters. Anyways, that's going to about do it for this Sank Daily. It is Thursday. I might get one more Sank Daily in by the end of the week. Hopefully there'll be something interesting for us tomorrow. You know, kind of the final day before everything explodes on Monday. Monday there'll be a lot of content, of course. With players allowed to install the client on Monday, there's going to be so much new information coming out. So there'll definitely be content then. If there's something exciting Blizzard wants to share with us tomorrow, I'll do a video, Sank Daily, on that as well. But that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you guys found these just insights on gold spending to be helpful in one way or another. Thanks a lot for watching. I am Hunter SC.